Hello, Ernie.
Hi, Mario.
What time tomorrow?
8 in the morning,
8?
8 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on Chaf Hey 25.
All right.
I'm Rav Yuna Bar Yudam Rav Sheshet Lobos and Shlo Zachal Lefayis. We're trying to prove that they wear their regular clothing or their big day Kodesh. So the Gemara says it's not a raya that they were wearing their regular clothing and now they're wearing their big day kahuna, because we're talking about those that already were in the pious and they took their clothing off. How did they do it? If we're going to say that it was already the people who won the pious, how could they say that they only put their pants up? The michnasaim, the pants have to be the first thing. What do the other side say? While they were wearing their weekday clothing, then they would start putting on malbishos michnesei kodesh. And meanwhile, then they would start peeling off their everyday clothing. The part that they would start wearing would be the pants. Rav Sheshes is going to try to bring a proof to his sheet, the Tanya. Lishkas hagozis kimin basiliki gdoila haisa. The place where the Sanhedrin had their offices, called the Lishkas hagozis, was very big, like a basilica. Highest b'mizracha, the lottery took place on the east side. The Zaken Yoshe b'marav. The Talmid Chacham who would adjudicate any problems would sit in the west. The Kohanim would stand in a circle. The one who was in charge of the lottery would take the hat off one of the Kohanim. That's a signal that from that place they start counting. The Yoidin Shemimenu Payis Maschil, right? He'd come up with the number 47. Everyone would stick their finger out and he would start counting from the guy next to the one who took his hat off. Now, how could it be? How could it be you were claiming that when they did the pious, they were wearing their everyday clothing? Mitznefes is not part of Big Day Chol. Mitznefes Big Day Chol Me'ika? Mitznefes means that they were already wearing their Big Day Kohen. The Gemara says, no, it could be Big Day Chol as well. In Kedetana Rav Yehuda v'Tem Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Kohen she'asaslo imo ksones. A Kohen, the mother of the Kohen, could make him a cloak, and Ovid ba'avodas yachid, he could do sort of private avoda with it. He couldn't do the korbanos tzibur, but he could do a private avoda. So he could have been wearing a mitznefet, even though he's wearing his big day chol. Abaya tells us that this office sat on the borderline where the line bisected the Lishkas Hagozis. So half of it was like here in this picture. Here. This is the Lishkas Hagozis. This is the Azora. And this office where my finger is the Lishkas Hagozis. Half of it was in the Azora and half of it was outside of the Azora. There was a line that divided it. So half of it was Chol and half of it was Kodesh. Says Abaya, Shmamina Shnei Pesachim Hayula, right? There were two doors. One, you could enter from the Azora directly into it. Echad Pasuch B'Kodesh, Echad Pasuch B'Chol. One, you could come in from the outside. The Isal Kedaitach Kula B'Kodesh. Because if you're going to tell me that the Lishkas HaGozis was all in the Kodesh, how could it be that you said that Zoken Yoshev V'Marova? Zoken Yoshev V'Marova and Yeshiva Bazar L'Malchem Beis David Bilvad. The only people who could sit in the Azor were the kings from Beis David. Talmid Chacham couldn't sit, so must be that there was an area in the Lishkas HaGozis that was in the Chol. On the other hand, he couldn't be all b'chol, pious b'mizracha, when you said that the lottery took place in the east. But it's got to be in the Azora. So you see, part of the Lishkas had to be in the Azor and part had to be out. Elish mami no, like Abaya said. Chetzia b'kodesh v'chetzia b'chol. You couldn't have just one opening and open to the Azara, because then you have a problem with the Zoken Yoshev B'Marova. Because the various offices that were built on Chol property but had an opening to the Azara, Tochen Kodesh, and therefore the Zoken wouldn't be able to sit there. And but if you're going to tell me that the door was only open to the outside, not to the Azara, pious b'mizracha, how could you have the pious there? Something that was built in the Azor and had an opening to the outside, toichen chol, and then you wouldn't be able to do the pious there, because the pious has to be done in the Azora. Which gives the functionality to the Lishkas HaGozis in some of the location that was north of the line of the Azora would be chol, and those that would be south of the line would be Ba'azor. Mishnah, a pious Hasheni. So they did the first lottery, which was which Kohen did the Truma Sadeshet. The second lottery was Mi Shoichet, Mi Zoyrek, Mi Medashe Mizbeach Apnimi. Who's going to clean out the Mizbeach inside the Heichal? Umi Medashe Samanoira. And who's going to clean out the menorah? So that's 4. And now comes 9 others. Because mi male vorm lakeves. Who's going to schlep the pieces of the ola to be laid on the ramp? Because that's where they put it out before they threw it on the mizbeach. Now, how there was one coin who carried the rosh varegel, the head and the front right leg, and then shtayim hayadayim, the rosh and the back hind leg on the right is the first. Ushtei hayadayim, those are the 2 front legs. The ha'oiketz v'aregel, the oiketz is the tail area, along with the spinal column, and the left hind leg. That's the third kohen who takes that. Chazav ha'geira, the chazav is the breast, the geira is the neck, like a chelzel. Ushtei adefanois, the 2 side walls, v'akravayim, the innards, hasoiles, that's the mincha that went along with the korban atomi, that's the 7th korban. Ve'hachavitin, mincha kohen, the mincha that was offered by the kohen gadol, one of the kohanim carried it. Ve'hayayin, that's 9. So you have 4, the first 4, and these 9 is 13. Shloshasar kohanim zachubo, 13 kohanim won this second lottery. Omer ben Azlev to Rabbi Kiva Mishram Rabbi Yeshua derech hiluch hayakar. He argues in the manner by which it was taken. He says it's the way the animal walked, and the Gemara will tell us what the machlokas is. So iboiluhu. We asked the following question: Kishain mefaisin. Did they do a lottery for each one of these 13 positions? Lavoda achas mefaisen or dimel chalavoda vavoda ein mefaisen. Did they do one? And let's say the guy standing there who got one, he chooses 12 people next to him. So those are the 13. Or do they do 13 different lotteries? Toshma, arba paisos ayusha. We learned in the first Mishnah that there were 4. Now, if you're going to be 13, it wouldn't be 4, it would be 13 or more than 13. You'd end up much more than 4. Arba pa'amim nichnasin lafis. 4 times did they enter to make the lottery. And each time they enter, maybe each time they entered, maybe there were many lotteries. So there's no raya from there. Toshma, Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Lo haya payas lamachta. Later on, when we're going to talk about the Ktoires, we're going to see the machta is the pan that you bring the Ktoires in with. So Rabbi Yehuda holds 1 pious, when they did it for Ktoires, that was enough. Even though you needed 2 Kohanim, one that carries the Ktoires and one who makters it, and one that brings in the coals from the Mizbeach HaChitzon in the pan. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Lo ayu mefis misha zoich b'machta, elami yiske b'ktoris misha zocha b'acha l'zeh shebimino zocha b'machta." Rabbi Yehuda holds that the kohen that won the lottery for the Ktoris, the kohen to his right, he gets the machta. You don't do a separate pius for the machta, right? The kohen shezocha b'ktoris armel l'zeh she'imo zechayim b'machta. And therefore, you see maybe a raya from here that they didn't do 13 different lotteries, but rather they did 1, and 12 Kohanim next to him would join him. So the Gemara says there's no raya from there because shiny machta ktoires the chada avoidehi. That might be different because the ktoires and the machta is 1 avoida. So there you get away with 1 pius and the guy who was right. But maybe here, since each one is a different, of shchita is an avoida, zrika is an avoida, dishna mizbech is an avoida, maybe each one gets its own. And ikid yamri, other people learn, dafka machto ktoris techad avoidihi, that you get away with 1. Avol shar avodot boy poyes. But maybe the other 13 each one needs its own. The Gemara says, no, machta yitzrichalei. You need a special chiddush by the machta. Listen, the avoid of Ktoris was very unusual, and it made you wealthy. So maybe even the machta not kinan lapayis b'fnei atzma. So there was a special havamina because it was such a special honor that there were so many Kohanim that wanted it. Maybe they had to do a pious for that. Kamashmala that no, they were 1 pious for the Ktoris, and the guy next to him got the machta. Torshma. Final proof. The Tani Rav Chia. Lo l'chol avoda v'avoda mefaisin. They didn't do a pius for each and every avoda. El kohen shezocha b'tamid, the coin that won the lottery for the olas hatamid. Shnei masar echa v'kohanim nimshachim imo. He schlepped 12 kohanim next to him to do the other 12 avodot. Shema mino, it's a good raya. Then Payas Hasheni, we said was the shchita and the zrika. However, you didn't talk about Kabbalah. You brought up Mima Kabel, who received the blood from the neck after the shchita. You didn't say who. Do we say maybe that's because the shoichet is Makabel? Maybe the shoichet does the shchita and Makabels. Because the iyamid zorik Makabel, maybe it's the guy who does the zrika that's Makabel. Maybe agav chavivuso, he's so anxious to do the zrika, maybe he won't have patience. And lo makabel elchulei dam. and he won't. You gotta receive every drop of blood that comes out of the neck. If it's not a kosher zrika. So maybe I would think if you have the zrika guy being mekabel, he won't do a good kabbalah. Oy dilma, maybe you'll say oy dilma. Maybe the shoichet should not be mekabel. Maybe the zarek is mekabel. The amet shoichet mekabel zin the shoichet zar. Remember, shchita is kosher bizarre. Shchitas korbanos could be done by a non-Kohen. But Kabbalah ve'elech has to be by a Kohen. So how can you say the shoichet is mekabel? He's not allowed to do Kabbalah. So what's the din? Toshma. Ben Kitin as a shnemasar dad lekior. Ben Kitin put in 12 spigots in the kior, the wash basin. So all 12 of these Kohanim who go along with the one guy who won the Pius get washed their hands and feet at the same time. Now, but if the shoichet is being mekabel as well, so tleiser havu, then you can have an extra person, not 12, you can have 13. And the lav shmamino zorik mekabel, it's the same guy, it's one guy, that's why there's 12. Shmamino is a good raya. Amar le Ravacha b'red Rav Ravashi, afanana mitanin shochad ha-shoichet, the kibela mekabel, the shoichet shats, the mekabel receives it, uva lo lizrok. Lo refers to the makabel. So we see very clearly that the one who does the zrika does the kabbalah. Shma amina. Omer ben Azai lifnei Rabbi Akiva. Ton Rabbanon. So he argued with the order of how you schlep the parts. Ton Rabbanon. Ketzad derech hilucho. How did the animal walk? So harosh v'haregel goes first. Then you look at the animal's body. Then comes the breast and the neck. Then the two front feet. Then the two sides. Then ha'ukitz, which is the tail, spinal cord, and the back leg. You have to go, the leg had to go with the rosh, because we'll see the rosh doesn't have a lot of meat. So therefore the guy who gets that portion gets stuck. Rabbi Yossi Omer derech shito hayakar, that it was offered the way you took the hide off the animal. Ketzad derech shito, how did you skin the animal? Harosh v'haregel, ha'ukitz v'haregel, then the tail and the back leg. Shtei defana is the two sides. Ushtei yadayim, the two front legs. And then hachazav hagera last, because I guess that's the last part that was skinned. Rabbi Kiva Mederach nitucho hayakar. So after they skin it, they chop it up into pieces. And Rabbi Kiva says it's the way they chop it up into pieces that gives us the order. Ketzad derech nitucho harosh v'haregel, the head and the back right leg, shtei yadayim, the two front legs, hachazav hagera, the breast and the chelzel, ushtei defanois, the two sides, ve'ha'ukitz, and then the haregel, the back left leg. Rabbi Yosef Glili Omer, derech iluya hakar, the best meat. Ketzad derech iluya, harosh is the best, the haregel, and chazav hager, the breast and the neck, shtei defanois, the brisket, the ha'ukitz v'haregel, ushtei yadayim, the front two legs are the worst. This goes to show you most of our meat, or a lot of our meat, comes from the front legs, because we can't have the hind legs. And you see, it's the most inferior of the meat. Of course, we eat the sides and the shoulder. So, freik the Gemara, no, v'haksiv kol netach tov yarech v'kostev. The best pieces are the thigh and the shoulder, or the back. So the Gemara says, ahi b'chusha, that's when you have a very weak sheep. But the kivsei hatamid were very good. It follows the derech iluya of Rabbi Yossi Agli. Amar Rava. Bein tana didan of Rabbi Yossi, basar ilu de visras linon. Right? One goes according to the quality of the meat. Mar azul basar iver de bisra. Quantity. Umar azul basar sham de bisra. Once they want, what determines quality? So one mandamer says it's how much meat is in the portion, and the other set says how marbled it is, right? Basar sham de bisra. How fatty is the meat? The more fatty, the more marbled and higher quality. Now the Gemara wants to know, my time is salka regel bade resha. What is the connection between the leg and the head? Why do those two go together? And for the Gemara mishum duration of fisher beat samois, the skull has a lot of small bones. Cover regel bade, so they put the back leg with it in order for that to be a good piece of meat along. Otherwise, there'd be no good meat. It could be a nice mana. The kulam miyas rosh karev bereisha manola. L'chora, every one of the Manda Omrim said that the head is offered first. So the question is why? Well, why the head? The Tanya, minayin l'roshu poder shekodim l'chol ha'vorim. The head and the inner fats go first. To pasuk. Talmud Lamer es rosho ve'es pidro v'orach. First you put the head, and then you wrap it with the fats on the inside. V'idich peder achrina l'mayasa. What's the other pasuk that talks about the podorim? L'chiditani ketzad hayois noisinus apeder abeis hashchitu malayu. They would sort of decorate the head. There'd be the neck that was cut, but they would wrap the head with this fat to make it look like a nice thing. To wrap the Beis HaShchita, because normally there was a lot of blood there. They would wrap the fats, the inner fats around that area. Okay, so tomorrow we'll learn at 8 in the morning.
Okay, so
All
yeah.
right, we'll do the next plot at 8 in the morning. That way